Hey, I just thought I'd record a quick vlog on, I guess what I'd call theme in games, which is, when the game is mostly held up by a theme. Like, it's not really mechanical or gameplay-wise, it's just like, okay, the theme is something which has a lot of appeal to people. By that, I mean more than just the visuals. Like, for example, something like those Spider-Man games. Like, obviously, a big part of appeal is the web swinging. Point is, the web swinging is probably a pretty good part of it, but it's not necessarily a great gameplay element, much as you might think it is. Like, play through either of those last two, like, big Sony Spider-Man games. The web swinging is cool, but it's actually something you ignore for most of the game. Like, a lot of the gameplay is actually this not amazing, but good enough, like, stealth and brawling. Like, the web swinging is kind of like, that's what I mean by it's the appeal, or it's the theme, or that's the thing which holds people up to it. That's a big part of the appeal, even though it's not really a big gameplay aspect. Now, what got me interested was there's a recent Matthew Matosis video, which I'd say is very solid. Like, I'd recommend it to people who are overly obsessed with like little game details and stuff like that, and what you think might make a good game versus a bad one. But there's this brief moment where he briefly brings up like licensed games. Like, he's mostly talking about the move to 3D and how it kind of has essentially automated a lot of gameplay in a certain way, because a lot of stuff which is simply too complex to do in a 3D space, so you have a lot of behind the scenes automation. By that I mean stuff like move assist, which he brought that up with God of War, but it's also in a Devil May Cry and a lot of other games like that. It's sort of this whole idea of, okay, we've got to automate a lot of stuff to make it work in a 3D space, and that leads to certain games having, like, it brings up Resident Evil 4 and how much that is sort of about shooting, but the melee is very automated. Like, rather than having a system where you actually have to really think about when you punch and kick, it's just something which a single context-sensitive button press does. Point is that that's less depth, but it works fine for what that game is. And he brings up briefly Batman Arkham as kind of an example of a hugely successful game, which was probably mostly successful because of its theme appeal. I mean, I'm probably not using the same language here, but the point is that's like an example where a lot of appeal was it's Batman. It does a very good job of replicating the kind of Batman fantasy. What interests me was he says this about sort of licensed games, an example, and I agree basically. I think a lot of licensed titles, a lot of their appeal is the license and how strongly it gives people the fantasy they want in that license. Now, I found this from Star Wars games. Like, I have yet to play a Star Wars game I think was actually amazing. Like, I've played a good few of the very well received ones, and my answer is, yeah, that's pretty good. Like, that's consistently been my feelings. I'd say Knights of the Old Republic was my favourite. I also got a game killing bug, like, after the big Revan plot twist, the one, not going to spoil it, which stopped me from proceeding anymore and made the game unwinnable, so not that against it. But my point was, I just kind of feel like when something's decent and Star Wars, it gets insane amounts of praise. Like, I cannot for the life of me understand someone who thought like Jedi Fallen Order had like this great narrative. But like, I've seen multiple people praise the narrative, and I'm weirded out because I was like, you thought that was like particularly good? I thought it was like the most mid, who gives a fuck sort of thing ever. I'm not saying it was horrible, just it's so whatever. But it's Star Wars fans. They treat everything like passable or kind of good, like the worst shit or best shit ever. Like they're fucking insane. So I expect that Star Wars fans. But I do think that's how a lot of licensed stuff works. Like I generally really enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy game recently, but I have to say it's not something which is strong because of its gameplay. Its gameplay is pretty mid. It's just it doesn't get in the way. It's not like say a Lego game where I find it so dull to play that the theme holds no appeal. I mean, part of that is that the Lego games theme already holds less appeal to me than a lot of other stuff, because it is basically children's game, like children's animated cartoon, the sort which is kind of also going to adults. And I've never really cared about that. Like I think for a while I thought Home Movies was one of those cartoons that was, you know, run as a children's slot, and I'm not saying children's animation is bad, I'm just saying like when they're doing the jokey joke stuff, like I'm more of a Wall-E guy than any of these like sitcom or running episode drama kids shows. I to be honest, I don't know, maybe I would like them. I've had no interest in touching them ever, and I guess that's part of why the Lego games don't hold that much appeal. Like I saw the Lego Batman movie and I thought it was mid as fuck, just pretty uninteresting. Oh, it's kid stuff, but there's like some jokes for the hardcore fans in there, I guess. So it doesn't hold my interest. I like pretty much all the other Batman stuff. That well, don't. I haven't seen all the Batman movies. Okay, don't come down on me for that. What stood out to me with the Lego stuff is I think it's pretty much entirely about the brand strength. Like as a gameplay experience, I've already put out a video where I basically said, yeah, I think they're extremely poor quality on a gameplay front. But yeah, I think this is a lot better because it's kind of like the one Lego novelty of like having all these different characters you can switch to, but the stages are actually built in such a way that it is kind of interesting to try and figure out how to collect all the stuff. It's nowhere near as like stupidly obvious as the Lego stuff. You actually do have a decent jump, like not a Mario jump, but like a okay. It doesn't feel as ridiculously simplistic. It's still not something I would give like high praise to. I'm like, this is for something that's got absolutely dog shit reviews. I'm kind of enjoying the time. And PS Plus thing I got. I think Nat's better than the Lego games also, but let's not list all the things that are better than the Lego games, because we'd be here a while. It's a weird thing because I think, you know, it probably makes me sound like a bit of a like Spurgmo to be complaining about them. But I think a lot of Lego's strength and why there's so many of them and why they sell so well is they do have this nice mix of on a theme basic appealing to both like the Spurgmo platformer guy who, you know, is a fan more of mascot games than of like any developer or any sort of particular gameplay style. That's why I see all these people be like, please let Insomniac develop a new Jack game. I'm like, please don't. I probably, that's why part of why I was never as big into the Sly games as the other two mascot platformers on Sony systems at the time, because they were arguably the most story focused, I guess. Well, the second two, I still like them, I'm just saying. Point is, they've got that brand, but they've also got the more like normie thing because it's all extremely popular brands. You know, it's Star Wars, it's DC, it's Marvel, it's Pirates of the Caribbean, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, etc., Lord of the Rings. There's probably more they've done, I've forgotten. But I think it's sort of an interesting thing because I wouldn't say that strictly only applies to licensed games. Destroyer Humans is a good example because I played through the remake not that long ago and have no particular desire to jump and play the sequel remake. Not because of the censored drama, like I don't care that much. I think they're pussies for advertising it as like, oh, trigger warning, this might harm some sensibilities, and then they've fucking made a bunch of little alterations here and there to make it less offensive. Like, Jesus, fuck, stop doing that shit. I really hate it because it's like with like a Yakuza title when they say like, oh, it's gonna be uncensored, and then they censor it. Like if you don't say it's gonna be uncensored, I'll at least be a bit nicer about your need to make some trimmings. If you play the uncensored game, I'm gonna come down on you a bit more. Anyway, geez, I should do a video about the localization at some point, because it upsets me in a way that it always comes down to like a couple of the same fucking cards who always just read the same information, where it's like, oh, censorship and memes, and like there's more to why I don't like the HD localizations than that's a pretty small part of it. But you know, I get the impression you freaks won't care, because it's like when Shinada talks like Mummy Milker shit with that horrible rewrite of an early scene. I'm like, that's the kind of shit you guys probably like, so you probably didn't notice it. You're like, they're talking like weird freaks, so I don't care. Now he's more relatable to me. Yeah, you go enjoy your destroy humans, you fucking terrible birds. Yeah, I'm just saying destroy humans, playing through the first, I thought, okay, this is bad combat, this is bad stealth, this is extremely uninteresting as far as an open world goes, but it's got that strong alien theme, I guess. And I think the alien theme is something people probably quite enjoy, and I can get the sense of that. Like it's like you've got a UFO, you've got some alien themed powers. Like, would I say any of this stands out particularly? Not really. I don't think Destroy Humans 1 holds up very well, but if you want to play as an alien, you know, it's there, and it accomplishes all those ideas of like a comedy game about playing as a cartoon, like silly alien guy who like makes the pop culture references and says about killing humans and all. There's some fun bits. I like the line where he's like, oh, they eat with their mouths, disgusting, or something like that. Like, yeah, there are things I find funny in there. Yeah, not as enraptured as a lot of people were, and I think a lot of it was the theme. I think a lot of what people liked was the theme, and I feel the same about the recent Stray game. Like, that is a game entirely about the strength of that theme, because, like, what is it? It's quite straightforward, like point-and-click adventure, like collectible stuff, where you solve obvious problems by running around until you find the right item. Then it's a really simple shooter of sorts, weirdly, and it's like probably the most in-depth stuff is the stealth things, and that's still pretty simple. Like, I'm not sure. I'd say it's probably, is it bad stealth and Destroy Humans? I'm not sure. Point is, it's not really strong on a gameplay sense. It's just cat, you know, and that's what people loved about it. It's like, oh, you play as a cat, and I don't really. Thing is, I'm not here to say that liking this stuff is kind of wrong and you're more in depth, because there are stuff I love for theme, like the Team Ico games. I think they're strong on a gameplay sense than some people might give them credit for, but I she's having to talk a load. I don't think they're amazing on a gameplay sense. Like, I think your average Team Ico thing, particularly something like Ico or The Last Guardian, is still not that exceptional on a gameplay sense. Like, The Last Guardian to me is all about how amazing all that animation is, how it really does capture about like Trico is just an amazing like creation as far as a game character goes. But it's not amazing gameplay. The gameplay is very much secondary. To me, it's more of a theme to me in that game is so strong that it doesn't really matter, that it's mostly just about telling a story, but in a gameplay sense. This is why I don't really mind this whole like hipstery, like ludonarrative dissonance thing, as long as it's smart and isn't particularly dumb. It's not like I don't understand tone and just think anything where someone kills people is automatically bad if they're not portrayed as a as like a evil like or anti-hero-esque character. Like if you understand tone and understand that there is a difference between like Star Wars and like World War II or like gangster stuff, you understand that there actually is a reason it's fine to like kill stormtroopers in mass. You actually understand like fiction, which I understand some people have problems with, but I'm just saying if you understand that, I don't have an issue, because I think that's kind of the main issue I have with people who talk about ludonarrative dissonance. It comes across like they completely do not get like do not get different types of fiction has very different sort of rules for what can and can't work. Banking this, fixing the controls. But that's what I mean by it's not strictly brand. It's not just about appealing to people by throwing in like a Lego Harry Potter or Aragorn. It's about it can also just be a fantasy that appeals to a lot of people. Like yeah, the Alien thing, like, or Goat Simulator is probably I played it for a bit, I got sick of it pretty much immediately. But there are people for whom just the joke of like it's a goat in a buggy open world game with like brain dead NPCs is like funny. So it's not strictly, to me it's not that everything that isn't that interesting on a gameplay front is something which can successfully transcend that because of a license. Like, I think first of all the license has to understand the right kind of appeal. Like, it has to be something where, like with Spider-Man or Batman, like Traveller's Tales, Spider-Man or Batman wouldn't really, not Traveller's Tales, I'm sorry, Traveller's Tales, I like you pre-Lego, I mean Telltale. Batman, to me, does not very obviously doesn't hold the same appeal as like Arkham Batman. Same for if they did the Spider-Man thing, because the appeal there is usually in playing the character and the powers and gadgets and combat and all that stuff, and just making a cartoon movie with some choices doesn't really hold up in the same way. Point is, that's sort of what I mean by, you know, you need to have the right brand appeal. I'd imagine the Lego games kind of get that right, even though it's quite shallow on a gameplay front. There's no real depth there. It does at least, they do at least get that the characters should have animations and stuff which suit the sort of personalities and things like that. So you end up getting this very generic like action adventure mix with you know, I'd have to say not particularly interesting gameplay, but they do represent the characters in a way, which you know, and they've got so many of them that like every bit of brand fantasy is kind of covered by Lego. I think they build out these huge chunks of a world and memorable bits and pieces and stuff them all in there. Yeah, I think that's what I was saying. I just felt like uploading a vlog for a bit while playing this, because it's something I can play quite casually and just chat while playing. Like it still feels very much like a kid's game, but it's not that challenging really. It's quite an easy title. The main challenge is actually finding all the things I've missed. I've found none of like 8 bits and pieces I need to find to actually, for finishing the stage, to actually do any good. Like, finishing the stage is the minor thing. The main thing is finding the 8 trophy thingies, which are permanently there on my screen to remind me, apart from doing bits like this. Anyway, bye guys.